In terms of looks, he's one of the most beautiful leopards that we have out here. There we go. Just going over a small little stump that I didn't want to make too much noise with. But there's our little boy sitting on top of his mound, watching what's going on. I'm sure he's a bit surprised to have seen so many vehicles coming past, because he would have had a view of Tingana and Kuchava from where he's sitting. From that little mound, he can see directly towards where those two leopards came out. And it's definitely Thamba. You can see the face. So that was him that I walked into this morning, and he was just sneaky. He must have just crossed this area before I could get anywhere near him, which is, well, what leopards do. So he did exactly what he should have done when he senses dangers, to try to get out of the area and try and hide away, and he did it super effectively this morning. But another leopard trifecta for the week, which is just pretty crazy. We are really, really being spoilt at the moment. I don't actually even know what else to do with all of these leopards. No other words for it, really. It's just been an absolute purple patch when it comes to leopards, between Thamba and between, Hosana. I wish we had seen Shongile, though. That's the only kind of blip in our map, is Shongile at the moment, and hopefully she will make an appearance in the next few days. And the way that our luck is going, Shongile and Shadow would be the two that we would want to see more of at this stage. Probably have been around. The thing is, it's just me out here, so I can't get to all parts of the reserve, which means that I'm sure some areas are going unchecked at the moment, and maybe those two are lurking around. We just haven't managed to find them because, we're not everywhere, and we can't be everywhere, and we've had so many other cats to look at that it's kept us from going towards some of the areas. Snazzy, you say he looks tired? Well, I'm sure he's tired. He's had a long day. It's been hot today. It's been a little bit windy, and, well, he's probably heard two leopards mating all day long, so he's probably been a little bit nervous as to who's been around, and has probably kept him quite awake during the day, so that's why he's maybe a bit tired. But he's looking very serious today. Little Thamba, don't look so serious. You must look your cheerful, normal self. But what we can see immediately with Thamba, not a single scratch on his face. So there's not one little scratch anywhere near that face, so not on the nose, not around the eyes, which means that him and Hosana must have just kind of separated without coming to blows at all, which is great news. And it means that both of our boys, because we know Hosana was seen yesterday and he is perfectly fine, it seems our other little boy is also okay. So that little interaction that everybody was a bit worried as to what could have happened to either one of them, well, as you can see, everything is absolutely fine, and these guys are perfectly okay. So it was more just a checking each other out and just establishing who's who before they separated, which is good news. He's filling out though, isn't he? He's starting to get a much more male leopard look about him than cub look. Snazzy, you're saying if a human sat on a mound like he is, wouldn't they get bitten by bugs? Not necessarily, no. I've sat on many a termite mound in my life and never really had too many issues. The thing is, you obviously don't sit on a termite mound where the hole is and termites are crawling around on top, and they can bite you and sort of nip at you. So you try and avoid that. Excuse me, everybody. There's dust in the air. But the termite mounds themselves actually are not covered in insects. They're not a bad place to be. Generally, they're a little bit raised, so you get a bit of a breeze. So it actually gets you out of the way of flies and things like that quite a lot. It really does help quite a bit in that regard. So it's a nice way kind of to get out of the way of the long grass, get a bit of a breeze, and also you can see from a long way. So humans, we often sit on top there, and when we're tracking, we'll go up on those to look around and to try and see what's around us. And if we are doing an approach on animals, you'll find that we'll go and sit on mounds. If we're viewing elephants or viewing rhinos or anything like that, we will sit in those areas to try and kind of utilize those areas to be able to see what's going on, and also be as a point of safety from up there. Elephants and various other things, you're much taller and bigger, and therefore they'll be a little bit more nervous of you. So it is a situation that they'll often use to be able to kind of get out of the way, and us as people is very much the same thing. We try and utilize it as much as possible to get up. So the insects are not a huge stress. I mean, there might be one or two, but it doesn't really bother you. Like I said, I've sat on many termite mounds in my time and never had too many worries with insects. The odd tick maybe, but that's about it. But little Thamba is still very stationary at the moment and still taking it very easy. beautiful though, isn't he? So Riza, you say look at those eyes. He does have probably one of the most beautiful set of eyes out here. He's got eyes very similar to what Mvula had when he was younger. Also those kind of green-blue eyes that are mesmerizing. So I really do like his eyes. I think they are very expressive. There's also dark on the sort of corners of his eyes and around the edges, and that really helps to make them very, very kind of unique and stand out quite a bit. The lightness with the dark makes him look absolutely exquisite, and the little pink nose helps as well. You can see that he's just looking around at the moment. I'm watching the coming of goings of some of the other cats that other cars that we have out here. Not cats, cats on the brain, so many of them the last few drives. It's been a bit of a leopard bonanza. Now, if any of you are worrying or asking about updates regarding any of the other individual animals that we see out here, so hyena den, I know a lot of you have been wondering about hyena den, not active this afternoon or this morning. There was a number of different vehicles that went into that area and had a look around. No sign of any of the cubs this morning. Yesterday afternoon, I think Intima was seen pretty briefly, and then we found with the lions, the Angama pride crossed into the Manyeleti. The Torchwood pride has been seen this afternoon with one of the Birminghams and the 9 cubs in Buffelshoek. But that's the updates regarding the kind of lions and the other predators that we have around this area. In terms of wild dogs, they haven't been seen in the last few days, unfortunately. The last I heard, the Sands pack was somewhere in the west near Dulini, so they're a long way away with their puppies, and the 3 wild dogs also haven't been seen at this stage. So it's really just kind of the leopards that have taken over, as maybe in the absence of all the lions and the absence of a lot of hyena activity. It's meant that the leopards can run riot a little bit, and that's maybe why we've seen so many. It's also this time of the year. It's always when it's dry like this, leopard activity or predator activity in general becomes so much better and so much easier. They hang out around the pan systems, and if you're just willing to use your feet a little bit and follow some tracks, you generally can find them fairly easily. So big yawn. I think he might get moving shortly. I don't think he's going to be down for too much longer. I think he's starting to prep to get going. It's that time of the day that leopards will get going. Now, a lot of you are saying that applauding me for 3 leopards in a day. Well, like I say, I've been lucky. I mean, the 2 this morning was just luck that we went to Twin Dams and we bumped into them. Thamba we did find on foot, which was, I suppose, a little bit of work to track that down and to find him, but unfortunately we couldn't get him on screen this morning. So I'm quite happy that we found him this afternoon, because I was beginning to doubt myself. But if I look where he is now, he's literally walked or ran in a straight line from where I bumped into him to where he is now. So it really is exactly where I would have imagined him to be. So, you know, we've been lucky. Like I say, it's just right place, right time. It happens like this. It's sometimes, you know, we do have these patches where we see a lot, and it's going to change for me in probably at some stage soon, where I'm going to go through a patch where I won't see a lot of animals. And that's the way it is out here. You can never get too kind of full of yourself and never get too sort of brazen about what you're seeing. It's always got to be appreciative about what you get shown. At the end of the day, if you know, you have, as far as I always think, if you have a positive attitude, then generally positive things happen for you. And the other side of it is that with Safari Live and the way that we do things, is that we spend long periods of time with animals, and that means we get to see unique sort of situations and unique behavior. And that's probably the best thing about this, is it just goes to show that patience is rewarded. For every leopard that we've sat with sleeping, we've been rewarded with incredible sightings. So if you think of the Shongile, Hosana, when they flat, and then all of a sudden Tundi and Thamba and all these leopards arrived, and there was a bit of a chaotic situation. The same with Hosana and Thamba the other day, and this is what happens. It's just sometimes you've got to stick through it and use the bad times and kind of watch and wait, and you know, always try and keep going to find what you need to find, and don't get despondent when things don't go your way. So it'll be, like I say, there'll be ups and downs, and it's always like that. And as long as you kind of watch what's going on. Hey boy, is it time to move? Oh, are you going to come lie even better for us? That's very nice of you. This is honestly my favorite leopard. Look at how awesome this leopard is. He is so cool. Spoiled. How can you not absolutely love an individual like that. Look at that little face. You are an absolute stunner, my friend. So I'm just going to put a little bit of light on him just so that Senzo's camera can see a little bit better. It's starting to get dark, so we'll just put a sort of floodlight. I'm not going to spot him in any way whatsoever. These lights are far better just to be able to help kind of add a bit of light into the shadows, but they in no means are the direct lights. And we will change to IR just now once it gets a little bit darker, but for now this little light just adds a little bit to the scene. Carson Denmark, you're asking, would his nose turn black as he gets older, and why does that happen? Possibly. It doesn't, not necessarily. If you look at Shadow and Tundi, both of them, well, Shadow is very pink and Tundi's got a bit of pink in her nose. Kuchava's pink has slowly kind of changed. Why is, I'm not 100% sure what causes the change. It's probably something to do with as they become into adulthood, so hormones get released, and basically the same as a lion's coat, in particularly in the males, as they become dominant, so they get a release of testosterone that causes pigmentation change, and they get the darker mane and darker fur. So you probably find with leopards that there is a release of pigments, particularly melanin, once they go into an adult stage and they start to release hormones like estrogen or testosterone, and that causes a slight darkening of the nose and an indicator of age. But like I say, it's not always the case. Shadow has a nose just like Thamba, and so Thamba's nose might stay pink all through his life. In all likelihood it will go darker, but it might stay pink. I think Tingana's also got quite a pink nose for his age, if I remember correctly now. I'm just trying to think of what I was seeing this afternoon. It's a part of a leopard that you sometimes forget until you actually see them again. But I think he's got a bit of pink in his nose. I can't remember clearly now. Might be wrong. Sometimes. He's got a spotty nose, doesn't he, Tingana? I'll check. I'll have a look on a photo, but I think he's got a spotty pink and black nose. So it just depends. I mean, sometimes they have very pink noses, sometimes they don't. It's all just to do with genetics as well, but they tend to darken as they get a bit older. How beautiful is that, though? Sabi Sounds is showing off today, and you leopards have all been the stars of the show. Even you, little Thamba. He's giving us all his best sides. He's given us the right side, the left side, dead on. It's almost like he's part of a catalogue this afternoon and he just wants to show what's going on. He is quite skinny though. You can see that tummy is a little bit sunken in, so I'm sure he's hoping for Mom to come back at some point. Her tracks were here this morning. Most definitely there was a female leopard track with his tracks. I was saying there was tracks for both of them. So maybe she just checked in last night and then she's gone off again. Wouldn't surprise me at all. We know she's a cat that moves around a lot, and what's really surprised me about her being in this section is just how elusive she's actually been. Even though she's here a lot of the time in this particular section, she's been really quite elusive, and we've bumped into her every now and then, but we haven't had as many sightings as I would have thought we would have had. If you compare that to how many times we've seen Thamba when he's been here, it's been a lot more with him than it has been with her. Right, we'll sit with Thamba and watch him and see if he's going to wake up and move, but I believe Brent is out and about with his spotlight and is searching for nocturnal animals himself. Well, not much has changed since you last were with us a few minutes ago. Thamba's still sitting, watching, looking around, checking out his territory. Now, a lot of you apparently are wondering how far Thamba is from the mating pair. As I said earlier, he's about 200 meters south of where I left them. Not far at all, and when they first walked out of the Mulawati, when we had them in that beautiful golden light, he was probably, I would say, from where that is, about 100 meters away. So they walked just on the eastern side of where he is, and they probably just didn't see him on this mound. He probably found he went quite low, tucked his ears in so that they wouldn't see him, but I can see exactly where they walked from where I am and where we were, so it just goes to show that he was lurking in this area and was right around the corner, and maybe he spotted those leopards before they spotted him, and that's why he slinked off up onto the mound to be able to watch them walk past. Interesting though that we didn't get to see, well, that we saw him and them quite close together, and I'm surprised that Tingana didn't track him down. They definitely picked up his scent and saw that he was in this area, or smelt that he was in this area, but maybe once Tingana realized that this is Thamba, and like I said, Tingana will know that scent. He spent time with Thamba, he's obviously been part of Thamba's growing up, and so he probably realized, oh, it's just him, it's one of my cubs, it's nothing to worry about, I'm not going to stress too much about tracking this individual down like I would have if it was a dominant male like Anderson. Are you unsure what you want to do, Thamba? Almost looking around as if to say, Mom, come back, I'm hungry. It's dinner time now. I don't want to be on this mound anymore. I want food now, and I want you to feed me ASAP. So I wonder if he's not going to... Oh no, back to sleep again. And what was that all about? Judy, if you want to know how far away I am from him, if you have a look, there I am, and there he is. And that distance there, I would say maybe 8 meters at the most, so not very far at all. He's really quite close. He's just over my shoulder and lying just on the bank, and he's super chilled. All of our leopards are. We've had a situation where, Tingana and Kuchava will walk past the car most of the afternoon, and they've walked right up the front of it. So that's the thing about the Sabi and what has made it such a famous part of the world, and why the leopard viewing is so famous here is because the leopards here generally are very relaxed, and the reason why they're relaxed is because we spend a lot of hours trying to spend time getting them accustomed to who we are and what we do. So Thamba, for example, Hassan, Shongile, once they're born, within the first few weeks, we're trying to get to where they are, trying to spend time with the mothers so that they get used to the presence of a vehicle, and also at the end of the day have a situation where they get used to that a vehicle moves around and doesn't hurt them, and the moms will help them along the way a little bit, but at least we try from a young age. If we didn't do that with the cubs from an early age, you'd find they'd be a lot more skittish. And Kuchava is a pretty good example of how things can be, because the first few months Kuchava was not spent much time with anybody. She was around Cheetah Plains and wasn't found very often, and she was very skittish. It was only once she started separating a little bit from Thandi, and we started to find her on kills of her own, and cars spent time with her, did she start to get more relaxed. And you can see now she's as relaxed as pretty much any of the leopards that we see out here. Maybe not as much as Thamba or Hassan and Shingile. They're a bit special in that regard because they just don't care, but she is a lot more relaxed than she was a few months ago. So it's just about spending time and trying your very best to kind of get it right, and to teach them basically that we're not anything to worry about, and that they can come close and that it's okay. So we are very, very close to them, and like I say, it's a special feeling to be as close and in such sort of close proximity to one of the wild cats of Africa, and particularly one of the most elusive wild cats in Africa. To spend time with an animal at this proximity is just a very special feeling, and we certainly don't get tired of it. Well, I don't. Senzo, do you get tired of being close to leopards? No, Senzo's shaking his head at the back, although Senzo's a lion man more than he is a leopard, but I'm trying to convert him. I'm shoving leopards down his throat at the moment and making him film them a lot, and so hopefully he'll start to appreciate them and like them more. And I don't think we'll ever get it on top of the lions on the list for Senzo, but we'll try. It's worth giving it a bash, and we've converted many, and so we'll try convert more. And with the help of Thamba, who's one of the most beautiful of all of them, I reckon we can. Now the thing is with Thamba, right now that he's laid down, I can promise you that you will not, in anyone that I know, will spot this leopard from where the road is. The road is 50 meters away, and with him lying down like that, the camouflage is unbelievable. So I'm going to turn off a light quickly that we've got on at the moment, and so there it is off. Now if Senzo zooms out a little bit, just out towards where I am, so there I am. Try spot that leopard now. It's almost impossible to see that leopard on the mound. His spots blend in perfectly. This dingy light, it just goes to show why it's so difficult to spot these animals. This afternoon, I know of 3 different vehicles that drove this road before this leopard was spotted, and we didn't actually drive here. We turned a little bit earlier, but we were very close and we didn't see any sign of it. So it just goes to show that these guys can hide in plain sight, and that camouflage, when he's lying flat like that, it makes it impossible to see him. I mean, there you go. You would never know that there's a leopard there, other than that little white spot just in the middle there of his tummy and his back legs. But he's definitely a very sleepy kitty. I could hear just now very faintly the mating pair. They're moving away from us. I can hear on the radio now that they're going quite far. They're going up towards quarantine. So as I was saying to everybody, just make sure you have a look at the dam cam this evening. Now with that water hole at the nest cam, I wouldn't be surprised those two go and drink there this evening. Right, we are going to sit with Thamba and hope and pray that maybe Thandi arrives, or he wakes up and decides to move and get some water. And while we do that, I believe Jamie has got her lions in black and white, and it should be very beautiful. Shocked at to how big little Thamba has now gotten since you last saw him. I remember Jamie, we last saw him, I think in May, was it? Somewhere around there. And he has grown a lot since then, and he's become a lot more mature about the way he goes about business. Grown into those ears and paws. I remember that when he was seen during the TV shows, he was in January, February, he had massive ears and massive paws. He didn't look very good at that stage. He looked a bit goofy by then. Now he started to grow into it, and he's becoming a handsome young fella, and in fact he's going to be an exquisite male later in life. I would love to see wherever he ends up. I will make a plan to try and find out where it is and go and see him as an adult male. That will definitely be incredible to see when imagine when he's 7, 8 years old and in the prime of his life, what he's going to look like if he keeps the characteristics that he's got now, of that dark gold coat and those dark eyes and, well, dark sort of facial markings, and then those green blue eyes. He will be incredible, especially if he gets big and bulky like Tingana or Anderson does. It will be phenomenal to watch him. Now he's just checking around. I don't know if something's maybe caught his attention on that side. He just seems to be watching what's happening and sort of having a little gaze into the darkness that is enveloping the Sabi sands at the moment. What's he seen now? He's definitely spotted something. Now let's just see where he's going. I'm going to try and keep up with him because he seems to be, all of a sudden, out of absolutely nowhere, he's picked up on something and seems to be following it. So what we're going to do is just going to go straight over the mound if we can. Doesn't look like there's any bad sections here. I'm going to turn on my lights because I want to be able to follow what's going on. Now generally we wouldn't go over mounds because there's sometimes big holes, but just watching Thamba walk over it, you could see that he was fine and didn't get himself into any tangles there. Where did he go? There he is. So I've got to try and keep up with him, which is going to be, well, interesting to say the least in bush like this. I also don't want to shine too much on him because he's spotted something. Have you spotted an impala, Senzo? So Senzo spotted an impala. Now, whether or not he... Somewhere there, Senzo? I don't see, but maybe somewhere there. That's probably what he's going after. So I'm going to just try and keep him in view, because once he gets into this long grass, it's going to be tough to see him anymore. And I just want, as long as I can see him, then I'll stop. Oh, there he is right there. So we can stop here and just see how he's going to approach this. But he's obviously spotted these impalas, and I told you that he's a little hungry at the moment. So he's going to try and look for food and try and find as much food as he can. So there's the infrared is going to help us in a situation like this, and this is exactly why we have the infrared, is to be able to see in the dark. You can see him on the right hand side there, Senzo. Other side, there we go, in the middle. There he is. So he's just keeping a lowish profile now and just watching off to where Senzo saw those impalas. I just want to check if there's a big herd or if it's just a small grouping that's coming past. It can't be too close. He's going to have to go quite a while to be able to get anywhere near those impalas. He's definitely got a long way to go to get anywhere near where, well, I mean, we can't even see them from where I am right now. So I'm sure they are here. Senzo said he spotted them. They must be behind this bush. But he's really got a long way to go. The thing is that this area is nice, perfect grass for a leopard to move around in. It's got that sort of whitish color, and once he goes down in it, you can see from the infrared, his bottom half of his body is quite well hidden, and so if he creeps along using the cover of this grass, he might be able to get right up towards where those impalas are. Now remember, at this time of the day, a leopard's eyesight is coming into fruition and is becoming a huge gift for him as opposed to the impalas. The impalas are great. They have got great vision during the day, but at night they don't have the best vision, whereas the leopards, their vision starts to kick in. And remember that they see pretty much what we see during the day is how they see at night, minus the color, and so they see a little bit more like what we're seeing in this IR, and they can see probably as defined as what we're seeing, and they will be able to then stalk these impalas. So if he can get low into the ground and keep quiet and use the wind to his advantage, the breeze is settling down and it is blowing across us at the moment, so across his face basically from right to left is how how the wind is blowing. So it's actually all set up for him to have a fairly decent stalk here. Whether or not he's going to is anyone's guess. He seems as though he's lost a little bit of interest already. He's kind of looking around and doesn't seem too serious on whatever it is that moved off. Maybe he's realized it might be a bit big for him and he's not going to have a go and he's going to lie in the grass. So I'm going to go forward while he's just lying down here so we can see him a little bit better than what we are now. Is that alright there, Sensor? Mr. Crowley, you're wondering if leopards are nervous when we're tracking them. Well, no, as you can see, our leopard is sitting right here next to me, so he's not in any way stressed by the fact that I am kind of following behind him. But if you mean on foot, yes, they can be if they see me. So this morning we know that Thamba kind of left me and walked away from me or ran away from me as I was walking. So we'll try. I mean, they definitely don't want to see people on foot. They're shy animals, they're reclusive, they don't want to see people, and so they will try and move away. But you can see now he's completely hidden in the grass. So there he is, just sitting there, and he's in no way stressed by me being anywhere near him. If he was worried, you would not find a cat as relaxed as that, kind of looking in my direction. He would just be, or looking in another direction actually, he would be staring at me, he'd be low in the ground, ears would be flat, and he'd be a little bit more nervous of what's going on. So no, he's not stressed by us. And even tracking some of the leopards out here, don't worry about us tracking them. I know Hosana, Shongile, we've spent time with them where we've walked into them and then actually done bushwalk segments on them and sitting right next to them, so they don't really care too much. Whereas some of the other leopards, not so much. Like Tundi, Shadow, you wouldn't really be able to do that. Thamba, maybe. This morning, though, he ran from me, but it could be because I walked into him about 3 times and I was close when I first got to him. I mean, it was about 10 meters away when he ran. Oh, look at that face. You are beautiful. Still a bit cubby. He's not quite lost the cub look just yet. A little nose sniffing around. So I was fairly close when he ran, but you know, generally I have walked into Thamba from quite far and he's been super chilled and just looked at me. So as long as you spot them from quite a way away, generally they're actually okay. Hassan and Shongile are a bit of an anomaly in that they grew up in this area and us on bushwalks, and they just got used to the fact that we walked around. It was almost like it was part and parcel of life with them. Look, he's watching a moth flying around. It was a moth or a little fly of some sort. But look at that face. He looks, seems in IR though, he looks a lot more cub-like than what he was looking when we had the sort of natural daylight. Now he looks very cubby in the way, his big wide eyes as he's watching us. Shame. He is a cute leopard though, and like I said, eventually he's going to be a monster leopard and he'll lose that cuteness in time and he'll become, well, I suppose a lot more intimidating and hardcore. But we're going to sit with him for a little bit longer, and let's go across to Jamie with her lines in IR. We are, Jamie. I can tell you it's probably around, I would say, 23, 24 degrees. The wind is gone and it is actually quite warm out here. In fact, I'm sitting in a t-shirt and shorts and I'm feeling a little on the hot side. So it is very pleasant in the Sabi Sands today, although the temperature is dropping quite steadily this week. It's going to start going down to about 23 degrees towards the end of the week. Oh, beginning of the week, should we say? End of the week or middle of the week. So I think by Wednesday it goes down to about 23. You can forget what day we're on. That's just when you know that you live in the bush, is when you start to forget what day of the week it is. The only reason I know it's Saturday today is because of our dismal rugby performance by our country's rugby team. Jojo, you're wondering when the rains will start? Imminent, Jojo. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But generally now, end of September, early October is when we first get our, well, normally get a first sort of rain at that period. And then it can often be quite dry through November and December, and then we get another sort of seasonal rain around end of Jan, Feb. And then sometimes a little bit into March and April. Last year was a little bit different. We didn't get much rain in October, November, December. We had a little bit in September, then October, November, December, quiet. January was fairly sort of dry, February fairly dry, and then March and April we got a lot more rain, and that's why we probably have as much water as we do in some of the dams, is because the rain was quite late this year, and that meant that we had a nice full dams, and that kept everything good. But little Thamba still fairly wide-eyed, watching what's going on. He's not really move too much, and he's not stalking anything, but definitely wide-eyed and looking and seeing and monitoring what's happening around him. I don't think he's really seen too much. I'm trying to look around and see if there's anything behind us that he might be watching, because he keeps kind of looking over his shoulder. You can see he looks through, and I think it might be to do with some of the insects that are buzzing around our vehicle, because we have the light that gets shone on me, as well as varying other little lights on the car, like the radios and stuff, and the insects are attracted to that, and they've been buzzing around, and so that's maybe why he's been looking. You can see, look at how the ears are twitching. Those ears are still perfect. They're going to get tattier as life goes on. They won't stay that perfect round shape forever. And massive big round eyes. A beautiful individual. Look at those dark markings. Don't close your eyes, we want to see them. No, I'm tired and sleepy. I want to close them and fall asleep rather. I believe some of you say that I need to give some of my luck to Byron because we've been on a roll. Well, happily. I always happily give luck to Byron, or hope that he gets lucky. He's an absolute gentleman to work with, and somebody that I always wish the best for when he's out in the bush, because I know he loves to see all the animals, and he loves to see special things. So I would want that for any of our presenters. You know, we all have situations where we have lucky streaks, and some of us struggle, and it's always nice when the other gets lucky, and I'm certainly one that always wants to share in the joy of sightings and chat about them and get different perspectives from different people. You know, everybody sees a sighting in a different way and sees it in their own perspective and has some sort of commentary on that, and it's great to discuss things because you learn from one another. So most certainly would love to have all of our presenters seeing great things. It's you know, we're a tight-knit unit out here, so hopefully they all will, and hopefully when Byron comes back in October that he will get lots of luck and see lots of incredible things, that's for sure. Now, Senzo's just switching off the IR so that he can point the camera at me, because obviously I don't want to be blinded by an IR light at this proximity. It's not the best thing for my eyes, so hopefully that goes off and we don't have to worry about that. But unfortunately it is that time of the day where we are going to be going